Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a concept today that has fascinated people for, well, like forever. The womb as a microcosm of the universe.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, right? We're going to be looking at all sorts of cool stuff, ancient Greek philosophy, Buddhist tantric texts, even some neuroscience. I know. It's kind of wild to think that, ancient philosophers and mystics were already drawing these deep connections between, fetal development and the universe. So what can we learn from them? And does modern science actually back up any of their ideas?
It is pretty amazing how this idea of the womb as like a mini universe pops up in so many different cultures and time periods. You've got, for example, the ancient Greek philosopher Empedocles.
Okay.
He saw these direct parallels between the stages of cosmic creation and the development of an embryo.
It's like they were already doing deep dives back then.
Right.
But it wasn't just the Greeks, was it? Didn't Buddhist tantric texts also touch on this idea?
Absolutely. Texts like the Kalakakra Tantra describe the three Buddhist realms of existence, desire, form, and formlessness, as actually existing within the human body.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying this ancient Buddhist text suggests the entire universe is reflected inside us?
Exactly. And it goes even deeper, connecting to this Buddhist idea of emptiness, shunyata.
Shunyata.
Yeah, shunyata. It suggests that everything, like us, the universe, it all lacks this inherent independent existence.
Okay, wow. So the universe is within us, but we're also part of this interconnected emptiness. I think I'm starting to see where this whole microcosm idea comes in. But how does fetal development actually fit into all of this?
Well, for some Shingon Buddhists, they actually envision the womb as a plurimatic pocket universe, a kind of mandala.
Hold up, a mandala? Like those intricate, colorful, circular designs?
Yes. And just like a mandala represents, the universe in its totality, they believe the womb represents the sacred space where the fetus experiences, get this, a state of pre-samsaric nirvana.
Pre-samsaric nirvana? Yeah. What's that?
Basically, it's like a state of pure potential, before entering the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, a temporary haven from suffering.
That's a pretty different view than, the scientific view of the womb, right? Which is more of a biological vessel. But how did they actually connect the womb to these, grand universal concepts?
Well, they actually linked the 5 stages of early gestation to the 5 elements.
Oh, okay.
Earth, water, fire, wind, and space.
Right, right.
And those same elements are also, central to Buddhist cosmology and the concept of the womb as a stupa, which is, a symbolic representation of the enlightened mind.
Wow, so much symbolism, they were piecing together a puzzle, using what they observed and all this symbolism. But I've also heard that Tibetan Buddhism, while acknowledging the, sacredness of the womb, they don't shy away from the hardships of fetal development either. How do those two ideas go together?
Yeah, that's a good point. Tibetan Buddhist texts, like Sgam.pa's Jewel Ornament of Liberation, actually describe the 38 weeks of gestation as being filled with dukkha, or suffering.
Really? Suffering. How does that fit with the peaceful mandala image?
It might seem like a contradiction, but it makes sense when you think about it. Tibetan Buddhism isn't saying the womb is only a place of suffering.
Okay.
It's more like acknowledging that even in a place of, potential and creation, there's this inherent impermanence and challenge.
So it's not about denying suffering, but seeing it as part of a bigger picture. That's pretty different from just viewing the womb as some blissful paradise. But before we go down that road, I want to bring in another cool concept, the Hiranyagarbha.
The golden embryo.
Yes, from Hindu tradition. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So this concept comes from the Rig Veda, and it describes a cosmic egg born from primordial waters that contains, everything in the universe, the ultimate origin story.
Another egg analogy. First the mandala, and now this cosmic egg. What's so special about the egg?
Well, the egg is this super powerful symbol of potential and creation, right?
Right.
It represents that undifferentiated state where everything emerges from. And in the case of the Hiranyagarbha, it also symbolizes both male and female creative forces.
Ah, the classic yin and yang.
Exactly. Unification and duality, which we see in so many other creation myths.
It's like this theme of balance and wholeness just keeps popping up when we look at these ancient creation stories.
It really does. It speaks to this fundamental human need to understand our place in the universe, to find meaning and connection.
And it seems like all these traditions, even with their differences, they kind of converge on this idea that the womb as this site of creation reflects these universal principles.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So we've gone from ancient Greece to Buddhist mandalas to a Hindu cosmic egg. What an exploration of how different cultures viewed the womb. But now let's jump to the present. What does modern science have to say about all of this?
This is where things get really exciting. Neuroscience is showing us that the intricate wiring of our brains, the very foundation of who we are, starts in the womb. We're talking billions of neurons forming trillions of connections, all before we even take our first breath.
That's mind-blowing to think all that's happening in the womb. It's like they were onto something all along, even without all the technology we have now.
Right. And it gets even cooler. Even before birth, there are these spontaneous waves of electrical activity that help refine this neural network. Like the brain is already practicing, getting ready for the outside world.
It makes you wonder if those ancient philosophers and mystics were tapping into something really profound, something that science is just now starting to uncover.
I think so.
They might not have had brain scans, but their observations and intuition were pretty insightful.
And that's the beauty of bringing all these different perspectives together. We have the biological, the spiritual, the philosophical. They all offer something unique, and they can actually enrich and inform each other.
Like looking at the same tapestry from different angles, and each angle adds a new layer of detail and beauty. But I think it's time we move on to part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll explore even more fascinating layers of meaning associated with the womb.
So we've covered a lot of ground already, but it's clear that the womb is, much more than just a biological space. It's like this canvas where humanity has projected all these deep questions about creation, existence, our place in the cosmos.
It's like a mirror reflecting back our fascination with origins and meaning. And speaking of origins, I'm curious how the idea of birth itself fits into this microcosm idea. If the womb is like a mini-universe, what does that tell us about the moment we enter the world?
That's a deep one. It kind of opens up a whole new dimension to this. Just think about it. Birth could be seen as like a microcosmic Big Bang, this explosive emergence from a contained universe into a much vaster one.
Whoa, that's a pretty powerful analogy. It makes you rethink birth not just as this physical event, but as a cosmic event.
Exactly. As we take that analogy further, it suggests that each birth has this unique potential for transformation and growth. Just like, the universe itself is constantly evolving and expanding.
It's beautiful. It makes you appreciate the incredible power and mystery inherent in every human life. We always talk about the potential of a newborn baby, but to think of it as a tiny Big Bang, that's next level awe-inspiring.
And speaking of diverse perspectives, there's another really interesting layer to this whole concept of the womb as this spiritual space. In Islamic Sufism, for instance, the womb is seen as a place of purification and a return to the divine.
Oh, interesting. I have always been fascinated by how different cultures and religions approach these big existential questions.
Right.
What's the Sufi take on this return to the divine?
Well, in Sufism, the soul's journey is often described as a return to its original state of unity with God. Right. And the womb, with all its symbolism of, enclosure and potential, becomes this powerful metaphor for this spiritual journey.
So it's like a symbolic return to that primordial oneness, that state of pure potential before we enter the world of separation and duality.
Exactly. It's almost like a place of spiritual gestation, where the soul is nurtured and prepared for its reunion with the divine.
It's incredible how this concept of the womb keeps expanding to include all these different layers of meaning, biological, philosophical, spiritual. It's like a multidimensional symbol, with endless depths to explore.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this topic so fascinating. It bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern understanding, inviting us to contemplate these deep mysteries of life and existence.
Now, before we move on, I want to bring up something that's crucial to this whole discussion. We've talked a lot about the womb itself as this place of potential and creation, but what about the role of the mother in all of this?
You're so right to bring that up. The mother's role is absolutely essential in this whole picture. She's not just a passive vessel. She's an active participant in this process of creation and transformation.
Right. It seems obvious now that you mention it. She provides the environment, the nourishment, the very life force that allows the fetus to develop.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. In many cultures, the mother is seen as a co-creator, a conduit for divine energy. Her physical, emotional, and spiritual state, it all impacts the developing child. And this is something that's been recognized for centuries, and now modern science is actually starting to back up some of these ideas.
So it's much more interconnected than just like the biology of the womb itself. It's about this interplay between the mother, the child, and even like the wider universe.
Exactly. And this raises another question. If the mother is a co-creator in this like microcosmic process, does that mean she also has a hand in shaping the destiny of the child?
Wow, that's a big question. One that probably has a lot of different answers depending on who you ask.
For sure. It's not a question with an easy answer, but it's worth thinking about because it really highlights this like deep interconnectedness between us all. Our lives aren't these isolated events. They're like woven together in ways we might never fully grasp.
It makes you rethink that whole nature versus nurture debate. If the womb is this microcosm and the mother is this co-creator, it suggests that nature and nurture are like totally intertwined right from the start.
Exactly. It's not either. It's this like beautiful and complex interplay of factors that shape who we become.
This whole deep dive has seriously shifted my perspective. It's made me realize that something, as seemingly ordinary as fetal development is actually this microcosm of so much more. Creation, potential, transformation, suffering, even our connection to the universe itself. It's like we've been looking at just this one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
And that's the power of this whole microcosm concept, right? It lets us see the extraordinary and the ordinary, the vast and the small. It's a reminder that even the most like mundane parts of life can hold this like deep meaning and significance if we just look a little closer.
We've covered so much ground, from like ancient philosophies to modern science. And it feels like with every layer we uncover, we get closer to the heart of this profound mystery.
And on that note, I think it's time we move on to the last part of our deep dive, where we'll go even deeper into the symbolism of the womb and see what it can teach us about ourselves and the universe we live in.
It's wild, right? After all these different perspectives on the womb, we're still only scratching the surface.
I know.
Like, it's amazing how much more there is to discover.
Yeah. It really shows the power of this symbol. It's not just biology, right? It's a gateway to some of the biggest questions we ask ourselves. Life, death, the nature of existence.
And speaking of life and death, something that keeps coming back to me is this idea of the womb as like a threshold. A transition point between two worlds. It's like this doorway, between the cosmic and the human, the infinite and the finite.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. And it ties into another layer of symbolism we see a lot with the womb. Rebirth and transformation.
Yeah. So many cultures see birth as a symbolic death and rebirth, not just for the child, but for the mother too.
Exactly. It's this letting go of the old and embracing the new. For the mother, her old identity kind of dies and she's reborn as a mother. And for the child, well, they emerge from the womb into a completely new existence.
It's like shedding a skin, to reveal a new one. Metamorphosis on a physical and spiritual level.
And that theme of transformation brings us back to what we talked about before, about the womb as a place of potential. Not just for the child, but this potential for growth and change within all of us.
So it's like the womb reminds us that we're never really finished. That we can always evolve, become something more than we were before.
Exactly. And that's such a powerful message, especially today when things can feel, stagnant. The womb, with all its symbolism of change and renewal, it offers this like glimmer of hope, of possibility.
I like that, a cosmic pep talk, telling us to embrace the unknown, trust the process of transformation.
Speaking of embracing the unknown, I think this is the perfect spot to leave our listeners with a final thought. If the womb is this microcosm of the universe, reflecting its vastness, its complexity, its constant change, what does that say about our place in all of it?
Ooh, that is a good one to ponder. It really makes you realize how much we still don't know, how much is left to explore, both within ourselves and out there in the universe.
It's true. And that's what makes it all so amazing, isn't it? The mystery, the wonder, the endless possibilities. That's something we should never, ever lose sight of.
I completely agree. Well, everyone, that wraps up our deep dive into the womb as a microcosm. I hope you enjoyed exploring this with us. It's been quite a journey through, ancient wisdom, scientific discoveries, and the power of symbolism.
And if this conversation has, sparked something in you, a new question, a new insight, a new appreciation for this incredible journey we call life, we encourage you to keep exploring. Keep those questions coming. Keep diving deeper into the mysteries around us.
There's always more to discover, more to learn, more to wonder about. So until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep embracing the wonders of this incredible universe we call home.